Hello and welcome to another video. So today I want to talk about the 10 best things about living in a car. My next video will be the top 10 worst things about living in a car, but we'll start with the 10 best things because in general I actually enjoy it. I've been doing it for about 4 months now and it's been a really good experience for me. Personally, I wouldn't do it long term, but I can really see why a lot of people would. So I want to start with reason number 10 why living in a car is actually really good. So the first thing is, if you're like most Americans, you probably have a car already. And so it doesn't really require any special equipment. Most likely you have everything you need. Obviously there are things you can do to make living in a car more comfortable, like having a good quality sleeping bag and something to lay on, like a nice cushion. But it's not required, and you can just take your car out and sleep in it. So that's really good, and it saves lots of time and money. My number 9 reason why I enjoy this lifestyle is because it's a great experience being a minimalist. If you're interested in minimalism and just kind of figuring out exactly what you need in life and not necessarily what society tells you you need in life, then basically taking everything away by living in your car is a great way to find out exactly what you need and what you want to actually add back into your life again. So for me, one of the things that really surprised me was heat. You know, I thought that staying warm was going to be a big problem. That's one of the top things that people talk to me about when I say that I'm living in my car is like, how do you stay warm? But really, it's not an issue. I dress for the weather. I have a sleeping bag that keeps me warm at night. I did have a little bit of problems when I first started doing this. I think there's some air vents in the back of this car, which kind of keep me really cold when it's on a windy day. But aside from that, the car actually doesn't get that cold at night. Granted, I don't live in someplace like Minnesota where things get seriously cold at night, but I've been in weather down to about 25 degrees and I've been perfectly comfortable. It just isn't an issue. Also, things like not having a toilet or shower, I thought those things were going to be a problem. Turns out not at all. There's showers all over the place. They're easy to access and cheap. A toilet there's tons of those all over the place. And so these are just things that haven't really been an issue. So finding that out has been really helpful in figuring out exactly how I want to set up any future living situation. So I already talked a bit about number 8, which was living without heat. And the only thing that I can add to what I've already said is that it's really important to have good warm clothes. My cousin actually got me this jacket, and that is much warmer than my old one. It's a lot lighter as well. And so most of the time, that's really all I need. And honestly, I'm not actually in the car that much. I'm usually at work or I'm out hiking, out doing stuff. So heat just isn't that big of a deal. So my reason number 7 why I like living in a car is because it's off the grid. There's actually been a lot of times since I've been in this car where there's been major power outages, including this one right now. It doesn't affect me at all. I have no ties to the grid for anything I do during the day. It would be nice to have a little bit more power in the car, of course, but I can do everything I need to quite easily. I don't have that many electronics. The electronics I have, I've chosen very carefully so that they're what I use and they don't use too much power. It's great being off the grid. I don't have to really rely on anyone to supply power to me. So reason number 6 why I enjoy living in a car is because it requires very minimal route planning. When I'm driving around in the car, I have a destination in mind usually, but if I decide to go down a small dirt road somewhere, there's almost always a way I can turn around because the car is so small. If there's a low bridge, I don't have to worry about it because my car is going to fit, and it's just very easy to maneuver and get around in. So I don't really have to think too much about how I'm planning the route. Also, it just doesn't use a lot of fuel, so I don't have to plan as much for how much fuel I'm going to use. If I end up going on a 5-mile detour, it just isn't going to use any fuel, so I don't have to worry about it. So that's one of the great things about living in a small vehicle, is that you can just take it anywhere and not have to worry too much. So my number 5 reason is that the car doesn't attract that much attention. There's cars everywhere. My car is extremely generic looking and it's extremely generic feeling. So when people see it, they just assume it's a car. People just don't pay any attention to it. It's just a car. I can be parked just about anywhere and it doesn't get noticed. Obviously, I spend my nights at campgrounds. Sometimes the rangers kind of wonder what on earth I'm doing since I don't have a tent set up, but just sleep in the back of the car. It's not that big of a deal. That's the only attention it draws. When I'm driving the bus, even just a little bit of it that I've driven, people notice it. And if I was to drive into a city, especially Seattle is very anti-RV. And so any RV, any bus, anything like that, it attracts the wrong type of attention. A lot of people will vandalize it if it's parked for any length of time. So driving a car definitely has its advantages. My number 4 reason why I enjoy living in a car is because pretty much all campsites and parking spots are available. Everything is big enough for the car to fit into. Tent sites are just fine because most of them have parking spots and I can just park in the parking spot. If I get really desperate, I'm sure I could park in plenty of parking lots, although it gets a little sketchy for me, but I could do it if I had to. I've been to a lot of campsites where even a van just wouldn't fit, and so, having a small vehicle really does help a lot. My number 3 reason is really the cause of most of the other reasons why I enjoy living in a car, and that is just its small size. Like I've mentioned before, it goes anywhere, it fits anywhere, it doesn't use a lot of fuel, and having a small space like that really helps a lot, especially if you don't have a lot of money and you want to go places. So just a small size, is amazing. So my number 2 reason why I enjoy living in a car is that it has an extremely good range, and not just fuel-wise. I can go about 450 miles on a tank of fuel, which is about $20, but also financially. Like I said, 450 miles is $20. If I was driving a van, it would be almost exactly half that. And so on the weekends, if I have the time and money, I can really go quite a long ways. I don't have to really slow down too much. I can go 70 on the freeway and still get excellent gas mileage. And I can drive for 3-4 hours and it's no big deal. And finally, the number 1 reason why I enjoy living in a car is it saves me money. And that's one of the reasons why I started doing it. I didn't want to get myself locked into a lease. There's no real long-term commitment to living in the car. And compared to rents in the Seattle area, it's cost me about half, and it's my transportation. So I save an enormous amount of money by living in my car. Most of the jobs that I can get, at least at the moment, just don't pay that well. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, there's a lot of unemployed people, and so wages are lower than they really could be. And so because the wages are low, there's plenty of people that are willing to work for a low wage. You kind of have to make it work, and so living in a car is my way so far of making it work. Well, that's it for my top 10 reasons why I like living in a car. And if you enjoyed this content, just remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below for the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you on the next video.